When I grow up, I want to be a math teacher or a professor.
When I grow up, I want to be a chef.
I want to be a fire and EMS worker.
When I grow up, I want to be an artist.
When I grow up, I want to be an artist.
I want to be a doctor.
When I grow up, I want to be an actress.
When I grow up, I want to be a scientist.
I want to be a professional ballet dancer.
When I grow up, I want to be a scientist that does chemistry.
When I grow up, I want to be a scientist. I want to make the world a better place.
To help me achieve my dreams, I need my teachers to be able to help me to learn everything I need to learn and then continue to dance.
I look for a teacher that does a good job and makes things harder. I like a teacher who listens and helps.
To me, a good teacher is kind, respectful. That's about it.
I want a teacher that's kind, that listens, that pay attention.
Kindness, willing to help or like tutor them. Like they will actually like help them. Like tell them like, you can't do this, you need to do this or that. Yeah.
I love a teacher that can take their time with me instead of forcing it and rushing it.
Okay, I look for a teacher is, I expect them to be helpful and teach me good and be my friend.
I want a teacher who helps me understand things more and helps other students.
I would like my teachers to be patient because I'm more of a hands-on.
I'm looking forward to the new school year to learn a lot more things and become smarter.
I just want to tell all teachers and thank them for all the support and making me want to be an actor.
Thank you, teachers, everything you did for me to learn.
Thank you, teacher, for helping me.
I want to thank my art teachers for taking me this far. It's been a long way.
Teachers, I am looking forward to see you next year.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for helping me with my class and make sure I get things right and helping me get A's and B's.
Thank you for letting us learn every year all the stuff that we need to go to the next grade.
Thank you, Ms. Simon, for helping me do all my art.
That keep being good and doing your job and just keep on doing your job and you'll be good.
What time is it?
So the Liddy Summer Camp program is all about STEM-based projects and different modulars. So the kids are faced with different scientific challenges and different topics, focusing on the engineering design program and the scientific method.
3, 2, 1.
It's not like regular school, so that's what makes it engaging. The challenges that the kids have throughout the different modules also make it engaging as well. But it's more so, I'm coming, learning throughout the summer, but I'm having fun throughout the summer as well.
I really like that they let you use your creativity and they kind of make you feel special. They let you kind of do your own thing. They give you instructions, but they let you mostly follow your own path. I like that they give us challenges that I'm able to handle, and I really love designing things.
Mr. C's presentation is good like always. I saw him at the Victoria Theater and his was good too, so he's just doing the same things, and I like his things. I like to see it every time they come here. It's good.
I like that it's fun. You learn a lot of stuff like science, math, reading, and like the science experiment we just did, it was really cool.
Parents or others may think, oh, it's summertime, so learning stops. Learning never stops. So as they continue to come to the program, you know, it's just enriching them and inspiring them to want to be inventors and inspiring them to continue to work with others and collab with others. So I do think that this program should continue to be going. That's why this is my 3rd year coming, because again, I'm having fun too with it.
Today is just an example of what the conclusion looks like. The beginning of the journey in Dayton Public Schools starts in preschool, and we can take you from preschool all the way to this space here. This is a wonderful place to have your kids. Have confidence and faith in us that when it ends, it'll end with a positive note, like what you see on signing day, with kids going on to do some great things. Purpose is to create energy and excitement around what kids are going to do next, to acknowledge whether or not they're going to be entrepreneurs, military, college, or if it's just going to go straight into the workforce. So it's to acknowledge that, hey, my time has come and I want to tell the world what I'm going to do. And to see kids signing to say this is where I'm going to finish the rest of my life, or these are my goals, it's really important for us to come together and rally around kids.
I see it as a big achievement and a celebratory thing for us seniors because, you know, it's the turning point into what we're about to go to next in life. So having that being celebrated for us is just definitely a great experience, and I love that for us.
5 of our 7 high schools are new principals. So they get a chance to talk about how important it is to have their first graduating class. As a former high school principal, there's nothing better than graduation. And now my first year as a superintendent, it's going to be really fun to have 7 graduations where you get a chance to say, welcome to the world. This was not your last stop. This is just the beginning. We're still a phone call, email, and text away as you go throughout your adult life. I'm from Dayton, Dayton kid. I'm here as a superintendent, so we're here for you for a lifetime.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk to you about bus safety. Every day, thousands of Dayton Public School students ride the bus to and from school, and it's important to know how to stay safe. First things first, make sure to get to your bus stop at least 10 minutes early, and while you're waiting, stand in a safe spot away from the road. Once the bus arrives, go straight to your seat so the bus can start moving again. And remember, while you're on the bus, stay seated and keep the aisles and exits clear. Just like in a classroom, listen to the driver and follow their instructions. This includes no foul language, no sticking your arms or head out the windows, and no eating or drinking on the bus. Lastly, make sure you only get off the bus at your assigned stop, and be sure to walk home safely. Let's all work together to follow these rules and keep our bus rides safe for everyone. Thanks for listening, and stay safe, DPS.
You ready, Ms. Wick?
I am so ready. I'm so excited.
Good evening. I'd like to call this, I'm not following y'all, I did do the call and response. Good evening. That's better. I'll now call this August 20, 2024 business meeting to order. Madam Treasurer, may we have a roll call?
President Smith,
Present.
Ms. Wick,
Present.
Dr. Goodwin,
Dr. Goodwin informed me that she's on the way, so we'll let the record reflect when she gets here.
Dr. Bailey,
Here.
Mr. Lacy,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Present.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Present.
You stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
6 present.
All right, Dr. Lawrence, you got a presentation. Even though you want to bump me out the way.
Sorry about that, brother.
It's all good. You're a Dunbar guy.
I'll come back to that in the closing comments. Well, today is a really exciting day for me because Karen Lombard is back. We went to principal school together, started out together, and she's just a phenomenal person and even better administrator. So get a chance to bring her back up with Eunice Breivik. Oh my God, she's going solo? Oh, you saying, hey, Hamlet, huh? Okay, well, Eunice Breivik, come on up. We had some questions from the board last week about Frog Street Press, and I figured, what the heck? Let's have a presentation.
Well, thank you for having me. Karen has pushed me out of the nest, so I'm up here. Yeah. All right. First of all, thank you for having me here. I know you talk about the high schools a lot, but preschool is the best in all of the districts, I just have to say. So I'll put that out there for the record. We are where they start their entire career, so we feel responsible to set them on the most amazing path possible. We chose a new curriculum this year. Why did we make that change? Part of the academic action plan is increasing their kindergarten readiness. So we've been taking that seriously and looking at what we've been doing and what we can be doing to be better. We know that students who attend DPS preschools are better off than those who don't attend preschool. However, according to KRA measurements, they still are not showing up ready. I should say that those who do come to our preschool, sometimes they're showing up at the developmental equivalent of a 2-year-old, and they may be leaving here at the developmental equivalent of a 4-year-old, so it's great progress, but we still have room for growth as far as that goes. We had a lot of complaints with the curriculum we were using. There was no scope and sequence. It was sort of like a choose-your-own-adventure with teachers. A lot of teachers who were working with special needs students felt like it wasn't adaptable. This is the creative curriculum which we had been using. I had been consulting with Preschool Promise, and they were also finding that it wasn't performing the way they'd hoped in a lot of their partner sites. And based on the number of teachers saying, can we look at other options, we said, sure, we'll go for it. You can change the slide, please. We had 6 different company presentations come. We had staff given access to materials so they could pilot, they could explore. We had feedback in the form of surveys, in-person meetings, virtual meetings, emails. We discussed with Preschool Promise coaches and our partners there. Then eventually we had a committee meeting after all of these took place, and we looked at the feedback, and Frog Street Press came out very strong above all the others. It was a standout. Some of the feedback we had measured like 20 different things. How does the curriculum meet children with special needs? Does it adapt to kids who have English as a second language? Is it meeting Ohio standards? All these things. And we looked at it, and Frog Street, it was very clear that it was the strongest option of all the options that we looked at. I'm going to change the slide. Frog Street, it's very intentional. It's a company that was founded by teachers. I mean, it's grown. It's probably a couple decades old at this point. That's sort of an image of what it comes with. You can go to the next slide. It's fully aligned with Ohio standards. It's on the Ohio approved list of high quality materials. They have an assessment program called Cognitive Toy Box, which works hand in hand with the curriculum. It's aligned You can use the assessment results for planning, which is something that a lot of other grade levels do. That's sort of common practice. You assess, you take what you've gained, then you adjust your lesson plans and your teaching. That was something that was very difficult to do with our previous curriculum. So this is making it so much easier for teachers to use that data and implement it. Go to the next slide. It's research-based. They take into factor all the current brain research, the science of reading research. They've looked at National Literacy Panel guidance. A major standout is that it's scope and sequenced. Before, our previous curriculum was based on units. A teacher could choose which unit he or she thought met the needs of their students, which is great for her and the students, but for administrators trying to figure out what they were doing, you had to go in there and it's like a treasure hunt, like what are they doing? What lessons are they teaching? What material are they covering? This is very clear that any administrator, anybody who goes into the class will know, here's what they're doing on this day, here's the skills they should be learning. With that scope and sequence, they loop through a lot of things like letter sounds come through multiple times through the year. It's really friendly to both teachers and administrators and those on the outside. Another major point for us was that they incorporate conscious discipline as a self-regulation strategy. Conscious discipline really emphasizes that the most important person in the classroom is the teacher, that if they can self-regulate, then students will learn to follow that. There's lots of strategies built in for them learning how to handle big emotions, how to work with their peers, all the things that we want them to have before they move into a more strenuous setting. Kindergarten teachers often say that they want a student who knows how to manage those sort of like major feelings and they're not having meltdowns, that they know, like if I'm upset or if the work is stressful, I can breathe. I have options to bring myself back to calm. Next slide, please. It's thematic. Some of the themes are like My School and Me, compare, contrast, changes. It's organized on a weekly schedule. They have a really strong emphasis on all means all, sort of like we do in the district. They want the curriculum to be able to adapt and meet different needs for special education, for English language learners. There's lots of things throughout the curriculum for culturally responsive guidance. They have higher order questioning strategies, so they're really trying to meet as many learners as possible. Keep going. The teacher guides look similar to what you'd see in an elementary room. They lay out what materials you need for the week. They give you a week at a glance, giving you sort of a prep of here's all the things that students will be working on this week. Next slide, please. Here's some elements of the day. They have a Brain Smart Start, which is a conscious discipline thing where you get kids to unite, they calm, they connect, they make a commitment for the day. It sort of brings everybody together. They have a morning message, which was not part of our previous curriculum. There's a heavy emphasis on literacy skills. Teachers do model writing. There was a lot that was lacking in our previous curriculum in terms of like writing and those sort of literacy skills. There's read alouds, math instruction, small group instruction. They have STEAM and music and movement activities, including they do things with coding and pretty exciting. Just a few things about their PD options. Their reps have been really helpful in thinking about how best to cater this. When they first met with us, they asked some of what our struggles were, and I mentioned things like catering to students with special needs. And they said, well, we do, very specific PD if you need it. So we would come in and we could talk about how do you adjust this curriculum to meet those students' needs. And that's just sort of the options they have. There's one or two more slides. Thought this may be helpful to know that in the factoring of a choice, we looked at costs involved. Frog Street was not only the best in terms of academics and socially, we thought about what is most important for our students and their families, but then looking at it on RN2, Frog Street ended up being significantly less expensive for the actual kits itself that we had to buy, and for online access. We were using creative curriculum teaching strategies and putting out over $80,000 a year to keep online access. Going forward, we'll be requiring about $20,000 for them to have online access. Their PD is less expensive. So I put on there that, as a rough estimate, Frog Street would save us at least $75,000 a year in terms of like online access and PD costs. And that's it as far as I have. It's open to questions now if you have them.
Yeah, I have one. So is there any, for this program, is there any outcomes for at the end of the year as to if this really helped our students or not?
Well, they have the assessment system that we're using is called Cognitive Toy Box. It's online. It's a combination of teacher observation that they enter observations, and then there are sort of some game-based things that students would do on a tablet. It's spread out in a scope and sequence that will match with our quarters. And then those things that they're measuring are aligned to the objectives of the curriculum and the Ohio Learning Standards. So we'll be able to look at how did they perform in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and look at growth that way. That's something that we had not been able to do in our previous curriculum, is look at that sort of data. Now we should have that data. And then, I guess that answers your question. I hope.
Yeah, it did. And is that something that by the quarters, you said it will be by quarters, is that something that you could get to the board?
Yes.
By quarter,
yeah.
just so we can see
Yeah.
the growth in the students?
Yeah,
with this
I'm
program?
hoping to work with Mindy and sort of that department to get everything quantified and then presented. And administrators at the principal level, they should have access to this too. And the data that teachers collected is in real time, so if they collect data this week, they could have that factored into their lesson plans for next week. So it's really targeted in terms of using that information to plan.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a comment.
Sweet.
It's really good. Thank you. It looks exciting. I love the depth of the work and the intention around, emotional regulation and all of those components that help. You said something early on that the range our preschool students are entering, or you said maybe 2-year-old to 4-year-old. I mean, what is our average? Do you know?
Well, between our different options, we have kids who are entering at age 3. Some of our options, kids enter at age 4. Developmentally, though, we have students that are scoring developmentally as young as like 12 months sometimes, 12 to 18 months. I mean, some of our special needs classrooms have students that's where their IEP would place them, or that's where we factor them. So it's a pretty wide spectrum of students that we receive.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Yep.
Anything else? Seeing none? Appreciate your presentation. Thank you for the work you do in the district.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
All right, moving on. I have hearing from the bargaining units. Do we have any bargaining units present that wish to speak? Can't turn that down.
I haven't seen you in forever. Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah,
Before I begin my prepared statement, I just want to greet everyone. It's good to see the friendly faces. I'm a couple of you I had the opportunity to meet over at, I think, Board Member Walker. Thank you for appearing when they were passing out the checks. That was greatly appreciated by our members. Treasurer Braha, thank you for all that you do. It's good wine. I appreciate all that. Our conversations. President Smith, Vice President Wick, board members, Superintendent Lawrence, Treasurer Braha, DPS staff and families. My name is Neil Mahoney, and as the president of the Dayton Education Association, my role is to remove roadblocks that interfere or hinder my members from doing what they do best, which is to teach and service the amazing students that we have in Dayton Public Schools. As you know, I take great pride in advocating for my membership and providing the type of customer service that my members need and deserve, and I strive to do this on a daily basis. Customer service is more than just a slogan with me. I put it into action on a daily basis for my members. This can only be done with open, consistent, and daily communications with the district. As much as I appreciate this board, especially with its recent action to amend the practice of compensating long-term subs at the rate of the BA1 on the salary scale, I am saddened to say that the DEA may not be able to meet the date set forth by this board due to a delay in scheduling meetings at times conducive to both parties. We would like to meet to go over the board action, and we really appreciate it. And as a full-time leave president, I'm available all day. But for some reason, they're attempting to schedule things after hours, 3 o'clock and on. This is not conducive for my labor relation consultant, my members, as I'm out at buildings, unlike some people seem to feel that I'm not as visible in buildings. Trust me, I am out at buildings talking to my membership on a daily basis. It's my hope that in the next few days, with your support and I truly need your support because there are multiple issues that we have been delayed with in trying to take action dating back to July 12th was our first meeting with our Human Resource Department, and we've had one other one since. We have outstanding business, we have outstanding grievances, we have programs from an MOU, a retention bonus. We have a lot of issues that we want to be able to deal with, and I wouldn't be doing my job as the union president if I was not here advocating for my members. So I am reaching out to the board for assistance in bringing both sides together so that we can solve the problems and move forward, especially so those problems don't become larger as we move into a contract negotiation year. I'm a firm believer of communication, transparency, and honesty. I do appreciate Dr. Lawrence, the new sheriff in town. I like that. However, there are still things that need to be done in a manner of professionalism. So I am going to ask for a little bit of assistance. I do want to meet that September deadline because my members truly were impacted by that decision. And allowing my members to see that the licensure and the process that they went through should not be paid less or respected less by others who don't have that license was a very positive aspect that I can say, that I've received multiple phone calls, multiple emails concerning that. So as we move forward, I appreciate your time today, Dr. Lawrence. I look forward to a conversation tomorrow. If I have to reach out to a couple board members, I please know that I definitely will. I think we're off to a great start, and we are looking forward to a great and amazing school year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I definitely will say, Dr. Lawrence, please keep us abreast of these conversations and make sure that we can have the relationship that we need to have to not only honor the board's request, but to honor the DEA membership and those that need to be part of that conversation. Appreciate you, Mr. Mahoney.
President Smith, can I make a request?
Yes, ma'am.
In addition to what you just said, can we just have an update at the end of the week to see if we were able to get something scheduled based on what the union president has stated? Dr. Lawrence, that's all.
Yes.
All right. Moving on, seeing no other bargaining units. Hearing of the public. Madam Treasurer, did anyone have signed to speak today?
No, we don't.
No, we have nobody signed up to speak. See, there's none, but be sure there's room for many. With that, we'll move on to 4. Superintendent, take it away.
Thanks, President Smith. I recommend approval of the following administrative appointments.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any questions?
Yes.
Dr. Goodwine?
I know that this format, we're going through this change here, but I also have noticed that I didn't catch on the last 2 that the after July 7th have been removed. Have we stopped that practice of having it separate for our staff who have licenses to be voted on separately when they resign, since we are now after July 7th?
July 10th.
July 10th. Okay, because there are several throughout the next couple recommendation that, again, we're after July 10th. So I guess this question is now for us as a board, if we're stopping that process of requesting that their license be held up, and if, like, what are we doing here? Or should these ones be on a separate, I mean, they should be on a separate one because we haven't taken any action to change that part, but it's not broken out here.
When I came on the board, I thought that was a practice the board had took because that was ORC.
So can I just request a amendment to your motion on this one to remove items 1 to 2, B1 and B2?
I'll take that motion.
And just removing it until they put them on a separate document that just say after July 10th.
We just did, right now it's 2A.
My bad, I'm on the wrong.
Where am I? 4A.
Yeah. Well, I'm look on the next one. I feel like you're gonna get it there. But yeah, that was my only question on that one. So, okay, go ahead. Oh, I do have another question. Madam Treasurer, I know we spoke about this in finance. There are the appointment and the change of positions. Are these within our budget?
Yes, but I don't know the individual, how many are hired, but I know they are within the budget. But if you want the detail, I can send you the detail, how many we budgeted, how many we have right now.
Can I just make a request in our future board meetings, column be created just to show where we are in our FTEs? Just so that question could be just a little bit easier for Madam Treasurer, and that way we are aware as a board if we are exceeding what the budget was presented to us. Thank you.
Any other questions on the current motion?
So we're separating B1 and B2?
No, that's the next one. I was ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was ahead.
But are we we're not separating any administrators?
No.
Okay.
Should we? Do we? Do you want to vote on administrator licenses?
No.
I'm saying.
All right, any other
It's a
questions?
practice.
Seeing none, may we have a vote?
Actually, I think.
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Warrants.
I recommend approval of the following certified appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved it?
Walker.
Any questions?
Okay. This is the one I would like to do a friendly amendment, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
to remove B1 and B2, just, and to be voted on when it's on a separate page. That just lets us know that it's after July 10th.
I will accept that amendment.
But
I was about to say
B2 is
B2 is
May
before,
28th,
okay.
yeah.
B1 then. And then second question, why do we get it August 20th if they resign, May 28th?
I don't know. We'll have to get back with you.
Okay.
We'll write about it and send it to you tonight.
Not a question, just a clarification. On B27, B25, I think is the same thing, but the salaries are different.
So, opponents in Thurgood, same thing. Salaries are different.
Yeah, one is an MA1.
Got you. Education is the same. I'd have to defer to Dr. Davis for that. I'm not sure. Okay.
Additional question on B38. Was this change just within Dunbar? Like, is this individual already at Dunbar and switching to another position in Dunbar?
On B38,
Yes. If so, my question is, what is the position that's being vacated for the long-term substitute position? If not, kind of where they moving from?
okay. I see Dr. Davis writing. I'll give it to you.
Okay, can I pull that one until I get that answer? Number 38, B38.
All right, so we want to move it to after executive?
Yep.
All right, move B38 to after executive. Any other questions?
I want to say that. Where did it just go? I want to say B27 is the incorrect one because B5 looks like the same as the other one.
is B5 and B25?
Yeah. So we want to pull B5. Yeah, can I do that? Can I pull B5,
B20.
B25, and B, what is that, third? Oh, wait a minute.
38.
That's a lot of them.
Already
Okay.
did 38.
So B5, B25, B27,
Oh, 27.
and B35. 5, 25, 27, and 35.
B27.
So B5, B25, B27, and B35.
Okay.
All right. I have one more question for President Smith.
Yes.
This is more for Dr. Davis. All these start dates are, well, not all of them, but a good portion of them are prior to the last time we met as a board. But my question is kind of what is the process here of from when they're hired to where they're boarded till they get to the board docs? Because we met on the 13th, and there are several that are prior to the 13th that seem like they should have been boarded last week, but they're being boarded this week, even though their start date is, again, prior to our last meeting.
We were waiting on a few additional onboarding documents from them, and so we wouldn't have students come to class without having a teacher and having empty classes. We allowed them to start prior to having all those finite pieces of paper into the system, and so that's why their start date is being placed on the agenda now as opposed to earlier.
So did they work those days?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't understand then, if they work those days and we're paying for those days, why didn't we board them at the first available opportunity?
This is the first available opportunity because everything is taken care of in terms of their paperwork. The practice in HR previously had been that they would wait until they had these onboarding days. The days that were coming up were the 20th and the 26th. And so we've changed that practice where they're not waiting to come in for onboarding on the 26th. We're having them start so that they can be there for the children when they're in the classroom.
I understand that.
Okay.
I guess it's still a disconnect for me on if they're working and we still have to pay them for those days, why didn't we board them at the first opportunity? Because
Because all of their paperwork
No, I
was
get
not
that. I get that
in.
part, but we let them work with all their paperwork not being there.
Correct, because we did not want children coming
So-
into class without having
So
teachers.
is that the best practice to let people work?
It is not the best practice, but coming into 175 vacancies on July 1st, it was the best I could do at that time to get teachers in the classroom.
Okay. We passed a resolution in December, which I know every time we get a new learning moment, I shoot it to you, where we don't do retroactive pay and those pieces for it. So I can see how those two could be a conflict of how it's about a 2-week or a week cycle now from when we could have approved them to when they're coming now.
Yes, ma'am.
So we just got to figure out a way to kind of meet that middle piece, which I know going forward, because again, you're only
Absolutely. It
on, you're
won't
only
be
on
an
month
issue
2.
going
so,
forward, but
yeah.
just coming in when I did with the number of vacancies that were present, I did what best I could do to pivot and make
Okay.
sure that our students weren't coming in without having anyone in the classroom.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
Oh, one more.
Dr. Goodwin?
Can I request, and this to be given back to us publicly, kind of where we stand on vacancies per building? That's all. And like kind of what those are, whether they are teacher vacancies versus non-teacher vacancies? Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Dr. Lawrence?
I recommend approval of the following classified appointments.
So moved.
Second it. So it's been moved and second. Any questions?
Just clarification purposes. C1 we voted on last week. Or is that? Like, that's,
I see Dr. Davis writing.
it was C1 of last week as well.
Question down here.
Dr. Gilmore?
Yes, I would like to know, and just a follow-up on C3, since that resignation was June 29th, kind of what the process was from the resignation to, or the holdup from it being that individual resigning and it getting to the board docs. And what number? Oh, and 2, that one's in April. So kind of those
2 and 3.
C2 and 3. And just putting a request out to the leadership team that if we have individuals that are no longer with us, that we kind of do that look through so we can get those resignations that are clearly dated, resolved and moved on, so we can stop seeing things that have passed for months. Second point here on the paraprofessionals, Dr. Davis spoke last week on the process that we're going through regarding ensuring that they have the appropriate licenses to be in the classroom pairs. I just want to make sure that the individuals who are coming in and getting boarding now, they are aware of that process if they are classroom pairs, and that they are aware of what will happen if they don't meet that deadline. And if I could just get that repeated one more time, please. Yes, come and repeat it again one more time. I got a couple questions on it last week, and I'm like, I'll see her again next week, and just what that process is and what we're doing.
Sure. To be a paraprofessional in Dayton Public Schools, you have to have either your ESEA, you have to have your ESEA credential. That means that you completed 2 years of college or you have a college degree, and they will add that credential to your para license. And or you have to pass the Parapro examination, and we offer that here. And so we're giving those opportunities to all of our staff members. If they do not have the college credits and they are unable to pass the examination, working with Dr. Lawrence, initially he had given the dates of the end of December for them to have that done and pass the Parapro exam, but we had a request from the treasurer that that date be moved up, and so we have not come to a different date at this time.
Okay, and are we communicating that? And if so, can you just let
Absolutely.
individuals know how they?
Mr. Cifuentes in our department, he's the one who administers the Parapro exam and pretty much does most of the onboarding with the Parapros, and that is communicated with them what the requirements are in terms of having that ESEA credential.
I mean, the individuals that are currently here is it
That's
going out
being
via email?
Yes, those are the ones that we're having, those are the ones who've had multiple opportunities to take the Parapro exam. So yes, they are well aware also.
How are they notified?
By Mr. Cifuentes. He's out of the office today. I can definitely check with him and get
Okay,
back
if you
with you
could,
on that.
if you could find out the method, like whether it is email, it is a phone call, just, I've heard some individuals who saw some things at our last meeting and they were unaware of this requirement. So I just want to make sure that we have a requirement and we are connecting with the individuals who need to meet this requirement timely. So if we can assist them, that we do. And it's just not something that it kind of just flew under the radar because they were
Will do.
forgotten. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is it still C?
Mm-hmm. You got a question?
No, just a clarification.
Okay.
C7 is D13. And actually, C7 was approved last week as D10.
Appreciate that. Move on that, Ms. Kidd. Any other things on the agenda? Motion? Seeing none. May we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Dr. Lawrence?
I recommend approval of the following classified exempt appointments.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions?
Yes.
I was gonna say Dr. Walker. Mr. Walker?
D14 is D11 from last week.
Any other questions, comments on the motion?
I do want to say, it's always good to see our bus drivers really come in. I see a lot of substitute trainees training from a trainee to bus driver. So kudos to that entire department, Dr. Jones and Mr. Anderson, and all of them, what they're doing, because we need more. So, good work.
And yeah, D13 is a repeat as well.
That's the one you just brought up, right? Mr.
Yep.
Walker?
Yeah.
You got it noted. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Dr. Lawrence?
I recommend the approval of the following supplemental appointments.
So moved?
Second?
Been moved and second. Any questions on the motion?
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin?
I kind of want to clarify when we're paying people on their supplementals, because I've received, and I'm working with the treasurer on this one right now, some people are being paid at the end of their supplementals. I don't know what our process is, and I kind of just want to know that for not only my own knowledge, but for individuals who are finding out about this. And we don't have a policy on it that I could find. Is that correct, Ms. Kidd? Is my second set of eyes? Correct. So I'm just trying to understand what is our process of, they have this range from, let's take the first one, August 1st, 2024 through May 30th, 2025. What is the payment schedule for individuals on supplemental contracts? Don't everybody jump up at once. Okay, so y'all need us to create a policy for you guys?
That ain't you either.
So
I wanna hear
for
this.
athletics, the athletic supplementals are paid mid-season and then end of season. Correct, Hewitt?
That's what I said. It ain't you.
Maybe.
For athletics. And
about-
then, like for the first one that you asked about, the concession manager, I believe they're just paid on the 2-week cycle like everyone else.
Okay, so non-athletic supplementals. I'm thinking about band now.
Non-athletic supplementals, there is no fixed pattern. Actually, you and I sat in an interview with Dr. Davis, and she suggested several solutions to that would pay those supplementals at a certain time each year, so that it actually would make things, I don't know what these word, easier, but more streamlined in Treasury and in HR. So we are moving towards some space where we do that.
How fast are we moving towards that space? Because we have some individuals who, I mean, again, if you start work in July, and then you're paid in November, that's a long time to do work and not be compensated. And we definitely, I don't know about you guys, but that, for me, that's problematic that you work this long and don't get paid. So what do you need from us as a board to individuals who have started in July, and individuals who are on current supplemental non-athletics, since it sounds like you guys have a process, which if anyone has a problem with the athletic process, please reach out and we can ask for this as well, for us to be able to give our supplemental contracts timely payment for services rendered.
Right now, nothing. We meet with the Treasury Department each week on Thursdays, and I met with all 11 of the bargaining unit, 12 bargaining unit presidents today. I meet with them monthly, so it'll be good to get their input on how many of their employees are people who are paid supplementals. And so once we get that feedback from them about what that looks like, we'll follow up.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Board President Smith, can Mr. Mahoney say something?
I was already able to confirm that. It's always been past tradition, past practice, that it's actually DEA or non-DEA supplementals are paid in December and paid in May. And I was able to confirm that just a week or so ago, so I could relay to my members when they get their longevity pay, when they get their supplemental pay. So that's always been in place, at least for the DEA supplementals.
Is that per your contract, or is that a practice of DPS? Because it's not a policy.
Correct. I believe it's always been the past practice, and it's really been very instrumental in attracting people to take the supplementals, being able to tell them you will receive it in December, so it helps with whatever they're doing then, and then by the end of the school year, in May is the second check. And I didn't bring with me, but I have those dates that I was already supplied when they'd be receiving their supplementals.
I will add that some districts that I'm familiar with, they actually, on onboarding for supplementals, they elect which ones they prefer, rather on the 2-week cycle or the middle of the season, end of the season cycle, and things like that, with regards to athletics and like band supplementals.
And yeah, my concern is right now with the band supplementals, because I know it's a lot of college students that do those things. And going that long period in college is different than having a full-time job, that you have your actual payment happening with you. So whatever we can find to like fit not only us as an organization, but not have us lose individuals that are in these other places, I just think we need to find it sooner than later to make that more
We're currently
agreeable.
finishing up the supplemental process that we've been involved in for almost a year and a half now. We would love to embed that in there. I'm sure that we would have no problem doing that. So as we finish that process up, our recommendation would be to keep those dates, those 2 times. However, we would be more than willing to look at all opportunities.
All right, any other questions?
So,
Mr. Lacy?
so Stivers has a football team?
I was about to ask about that.
They hired a coach pending.
I'm excited for them.
So currently we have a coach and we're building the program.
So my question would be, circle back, what does it look like if this coach was unable to field a team, whereas the same way we have any other, if it was Dunbar soccer or opponents football or indoor check, if they're not able to field that team, then do we not go ahead and pay that supplemental?
That's a great question. I think perhaps we need to put some parameters around when the cutoff date, essentially.
Yeah, that was
You know,
my
like,
question, 'cause
yeah,
I
if
think
we,
I wouldn't want to create a new thing just for this, to where we're paying somebody and we're not seeing some kind of metric to say that there's a team of some sort.
Right.
Now, I know we've done that in other sports where we've had either players and no coach, coach no player, like, and we've seen it in other sports where people have been brought on as either assistants or, a freshman coach, and then they're become a volunteer coach because there aren't enough players. So you can get back with us to say, what does that framework look like? What are those parameters? What justifies, the supplemental for saying it's a head football coach and not a club or not some other kind of piece, while we're looking into building up what would be a football team at Stivers?
Definitely.
I appreciate it.
One more question.
I got a question too. So, for my clarity, so if we've already hired this person, then what does that look like if they don't have the team?
So just to be clear, the board was the one who told them to start a team. So it wasn't like the AD said it, so they haven't even had time to talk to students or anything like that. So I was under the impression that year one was club, build team. Stivers doesn't have a weight room for these guys to utilize. So I think that's another concern that needs to be addressed on really what needs to be set up to start and field a team.
Well, what do we do with this person that we've already hired, is my question.
Can I ask a question?
That's their job.
With this individual, because again, in August, I think it's an unrealistic expectation that they would look like any of our other 5 schools. And the question, actually what I'm looking for more for you to report out to us, not for you to tell me today, is kind of what is the reasonable expectation of a individual starting today to garner, if there was even interest now for the football program there, because similar to what Board Member Walker just stated, I was under the impression that the goal was to see what can happen if it's there versus waiting for people to want it and put it there, and that piece of it. And making sure that this individual that is coming in, he does have the supports to, if that is a program that is going to thrive, that we give him an opportunity to build it, because at this point, I'm also interested, like, what do they play? Is it a 7-on-7? It can't be, again, like our other 5 schools, because we're at August 20th today. So if I could just have that come back to us, kind of what we're looking for, what are realistic expectations in year 1 of what he's able to do in the time frame that he has. And as I haven't seen anyone else, it looks like he's a team of 1 right now too. So just kind of what that is.
Right, okay. Would you like a presentation at the next review
Sure,
session? Or?
that'd be good to know. I mean, that way, I don't want us to hang this person out there to be unsuccessful if we aren't giving him the supports to that one. I will say, Board Member Walker, to your question on the weight room, it's been represented that Stivers doesn't have the physical space, and they've been offered Kroc Center
Yeah. we have a
passes
partnership.
to utilize that weight room. So that has been one of the past resolves that we've been trying to do to get them access to it. I don't know if the space thing has been resolved or if a new place has been identified for us to put that in there, but that was the last conversation that we had on it.
And I will add that the individual, after speaking with Chief Jones, he did win city championship last year as the head coach at Waldman, I think, and he was on the football team staff at Belmont as well.
That's Ryan Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, and that would be my question, is really looking at what are we expecting and what does that look like? Because at the end of the day, even though if we're saying they wouldn't, of course they're not gonna look like the other schools, but I wouldn't want somebody to go in and then at the end of the year say, well, I just couldn't do it. Like, there needs to be some pieces to say, what does this look like? And then that also for me goes back into the conversation from previously about what does it look like for what is that supplemental time? Because if we're saying there's a year to gauge this, but in the other football coaches, their supplemental time, just like this one, is from August to December. So if we're telling someone they have a year to try to build something out or see what this would look like, it doesn't seem fair to me that I'm telling them that their supplemental ends December 7th. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to see, because there's work that can be done, and finding ways of seeing what that looks like.
I think I'm a little bit different. And it's not so much on that, just like to add to that. I think this is items, though, that should have been addressed prior to the hire. Like, so.
What I'm saying is, period for.
No. Yeah, I get that. I'm saying, though, like, when they interviewed the individuals for this role, what was stated to them as far as, like, this is what we want you to do in year 1? Because I don't know, maybe if that can be a part of the report, like, this is what was year 1 set and how we offered the role of goals.
So I think it's important that the individual that's hired, that's building the program, they should be a part of the planning process. And so I think this is a really good time to determine metrics, deliverables, and we can present that out to the board.
I think for me, it's less of what should have been presented before it, or for me, it's more, can't cry over spilled milk now. It's just, this is something that, a person that could have been brought in earlier, if you want to go, because I mean, I wouldn't want somebody outside to say, this is what we're expecting of you, and you not be part of that and give your feedback and all of these things. I mean, it's a doable task, in my opinion. I think there's some other things when we talk about Stivers, just enrollment numbers. How do we bring some people in there? How do we do some of those things? But I don't want to lose sight of the thought of the conversation of, if we're telling people that these are roles that extend past when they're in
That space,
then what are we doing outside of there? Because even not just looking at a Stivers and not just looking at football, but if I'm trying to build a baseball program, am I only doing conversations and work around baseball in the spring? And I say even, maybe they didn't get Mr. Mahoney right on that, but if he may answer that, when we played baseball, we weren't starting baseball in the spring. We were in the gym doing baseball work in the winter. And so if we're trying to really, and that is how, at that time, which you don't see around the district at all, we had a junior varsity baseball team in the inner city. because we had enough time and we had somebody going in and finding, okay, if you don't wrestle and you don't play basketball, then you're working on baseball right now. If you don't run track and you don't play tennis, then you're doing this sport. So just looking as we move forward and continue these supplemental conversations, what does it look like if we're talking about building not just programs, but building relationships, building those pieces to keep these kids involved. So I would want to see, like Dr. Goodwin said, what are we looking at for that? And then also like some kind of metric of during this time, if it's getting a certain amount of kids to just start coming out and learning the fundamentals of football, you know, learning these things, getting out and doing some 7-on-7 drills, because that's going to be the piece, is that 7-on-7s will come around in the spring. That's when they're doing 7-on-7 camps again. So just looking at that totality, I think it'd be a good report out for not only what we're looking there, but then later on, what are we looking at in totality of these offerings?
Okay, got it.
Anything else? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Ms. Lawrence?
I recommend approval of the following 48-hour rule.
So moved.
I second it. It's been moved and second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
I recommend approval of the following 48-hour rule recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any questions?
I like
Dr.
to move,
Goodwin?
yeah, I like to move F1 and F3 to the similar after July 10th.
F1 is May 24th.
Well then F3. Thanks, Joe.
F3
Appreciate you.
is not a
That's an
teacher.
admin.
Administration. F5. Oh, not F5, never
No.
mind. It's before the date.
So nothing.
Nothing, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I just read teacher. I
Never
didn't read their
mind.
date.
Never mind.
Never mind.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
I recommend approval of the following consultants.
Can I make a motion to take A through E together?
A through, oh,
I'm gonna ask about each and every one of them, but
We can still
go
discuss it
ahead.
together.
You put it out there, go ahead.
So I motion to take A through E together.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
No.
Dr. Bailey,
Yeah.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
No.
5 yeses, 2 no.
So now the motion is on the floor for A, B, C, D, and E. Any questions?
Actually, I'd like to vote on several things separately.
All right, Dr. Goodwin?
On the first one, in the consultants, I'd like to vote on all 4 separate. In contracts, I'd like to vote on.
I'm confused. I thought we just did those all together.
You did, and I'm asking to vote on them
You can
individually.
still pull something from a motion together, same.
To have
as
it
you
vote
on
individually.
individual motion.
Oh,
We just still have to vote on that individual outside of the motion, which is A through E, which would be the same as if we just had the motion on A, you can still pull something out of A.
That's correct.
I'm good. I just want y'all to.
In contracts, I would like to vote on the Miami Valley Hospital separately. And the Samarital Behavioral Health separately. The ESS Northeast LLC separately. And the YMCA MOU separately.
All right, any other questions? No questions on anything else here? All right. If we have no further questions, we'll vote on the original motion, which was A through E, with those that have been asked to be separately voted on. May we have a vote?
Okay. President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
and Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right. Can you go down the list, Madam Treasurer, do you have those listed down for the individual votes?
Yes, from A, all A to E. From contracts, Miami, ESS, YMCA, separately.
Yeah, the consultants are all separate.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
So we'll take the first consultant, D. Gregory and Associates, for a separate vote. Any questions?
Yes.
All right.
Dr. Lawrence, can you just tell us a little bit about what we are expecting to gain from this consultant?
Actually, I'll ask the Associate Soup to come up and talk about Dr. Gregory and what we stand to gain.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Dr. Lawrence, Treasurer Abraha, and visiting guest. Thank you for the question about Dr. Gregory and Associates. You'll see in the description that he provides training for the actual instructional model that we are requiring our teachers to do, the gradual release, using Marzano's strategies. He's a local trainer from Dayton, but he's a national trainer with ASCD. He has actually worked directly with Marzano himself, and he's one of the best in the business. And so he's been with Dayton Public for many years. He actually provided us support at our PD days last year, and the feedback from teachers was very positive. And so we're just looking forward to what he's going to provide again this year to strengthen the instructional practices in the classroom.
Which grade does he work with? What grades are teachers?
He has
Is it
covered
all K through
all of
12?
them. He can cover any grade. I can find out from Chief Sheehy if she's got him working with a targeted group. Last year, when he provided training at our, it was a conference-style PD, teachers signed up, and literally, they were all grades, and he's able to adapt to whether it's elementary, middle, or high. And he even supported some of our specials teachers who were in the room that teach some of the fine arts and things. So he's able to adapt to any grade, but I can find out if there's a specific one for this year he's doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Next one, Hartley. Any questions?
Yes. Is this specific for just ponents? And have we utilized this in the past? And if so, kind of, how has it worked for us?
Thank you for the question. He works with our media arts department, with the radio, and with we used to have 2 teachers in that area, and now we only have 1. And he's the person that helps the radio station keep going and works with our students.
Just opponents?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because that's where we have the TV radio stations.
Do we have any future plans of looking at any of our middle schools as a feeder to that one, and it just not being something you can only experience 9th grade it up?
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. One thing that our director of Career Tech, his goal is to expand Career Tech to all schools. And all of our middle schools do have some Career Tech programming, but the media arts piece is one we think is something we can promote even more at the middle school, so we'll consider that.
Okay, thank you.
And even opportunities for the high schoolers to go and mentor and work with our middle schoolers too is something we've talked about.
It would be really cool to see. I know the actual program is at Ponitz, but if we were able to create any type of clubs outside of that one, because all of us, I mean, you know, back in my day, this was called AV, the Audio and Visual Club, and it was that group that kind of facilitated that. But seeing how many of our kids are either starting podcasts, even seeing from the superintendent's TV show that they put out, or I don't know what it is.
The
It's
podcast.
It's something.
The
He on
next
there,
level.
his hands is like this all the
Taking it
time. It's
to
a
the
thing.
next level.
But that piece of it, being able to even offering those as clubs and garnering that type of support, because even as I see the kids when they are not doing, they're doing school announcements, I see some of them doing commentary at some of the athletic events. I mean, you see them in all type of spaces. Even the spelling bee has a commentary. So it would just be really cool to not only take a skill set that you see them naturally doing and put them in a venue to do that, if we could just find ways to try to ingrain them in those type of things, because we know it is a career that people go
way
into.
to make learning engaging. Yeah, we'll definitely make that as a recommendation and work on it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? May we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, next one. Any questions?
Yes. Should, in the totaling spot, should that have a 10,000 on there as well? That's a practical question, so if that could just be corrected. Second, so I see this is in elementary and secondary. What are we defining as new director? Because we have so many different titles in our organization. I'm just interested in who is this focus, who will this mentoring services be focused towards?
So the new director is a new director of health services. So he supervises the nurses. So that's who the new director is.
Oh, this is for him specifically?
Yes, that's specifically for him.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just to some more context on that, Virginia Noy was the director before and retired from this district as director.
Thank you, Brother Walker.
We
Yes.
worked together at E.J. Brown. So.
Thank you for that.
Anything else? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Wants care. Any questions?
Yes, real quick, can you just tell us, even for our people at home, the goals of 1, 3, 4, and 4, what those are? As a little elevator pitch, so people kind of know what that means. I imagine this is tied to our strategic plan, our district goals.
Well, 1 is increase student learning by incorporating effective instructional strategies. 3 is develop a plan for integration of technology. 4 is strengthen resources of diverse populations. And 8 is district will focus on organizational excellence. I would say that these strategic goals are in the process of being in revision, and we're going to submit strategic goals and a strategic plan to the board. We're working off of our academic action plan as a day-to-day driving force, like a lesson plan. But yeah, we do need to align a strategic plan with our academic action plan.
Thank you. It's good to see that Belmont Dunbar and Thurgood are getting like this opportunity for phlebotomy. So I appreciate you guys bringing something that they didn't have into a space that they do have. And if parents or students don't know about it, it is definitely something that it appears you can take it during the first semester at Belmont and Dunbar, and the second semester at Thurgood. I don't know, it may be our year, because this is a consultant for that, correct?
That's
So
correct.
it may be our year. So reach out to the schools individually if you are interested in that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, moving to contracts, ESS Northeast LLC, are there any questions?
Yes. One is, I know we're voting on this tonight, but is there any update on looking into if this service is beneficial to us? I know in the past, they have only been able to provide us with about 65 to 70% of our need. So is this the only service? Is this the best way for us to move forward? And kind of any movement whatsoever on the request that was made last year around this same time?
Dr. Goodwin, once we deconstructed the double teaching and placed other teachers in spaces to find out how many single teacher openings we have, because the ESS fill rate was really a function of we were using them for long-term subs, so they didn't have them to replace them. So we're currently processing the data, and yes, we're going to get that done this year to say whether it's effective or not. And it's part of the agenda for HR and Treasury. We meet weekly. It hasn't been, but it's going to be.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, next, the Miami Valley Hospital. Any questions? Yep, Miami Valley Hospital. Are there any other questions on it? All right. May we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
No.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Last week?
Mr. Walker,
No.
Did they give the public reason?
and Ms. Reinhardt.
Remember the question?
5 yeses, 2 no.
Samaritan Behavioral Health. Any questions?
Yes. Just following up from last week from Dr. Bailey's question on the services that will be provided by this one. I know we received something via email, but again, I believe if we ask it publicly, it should be given back to us publicly as well.
Sure. Ms. Minor, would you speak to the comprehensive services that we sent? You and Ms. Spurlock and Ms.
Yes.
Dinsmore put together?
So we're very excited to bring Samaritan Behavioral Health back to the district. They've, through the years, provide excellent service to districts all over. They actually have programming that starts from preschool and goes all the way up. So there's a program called YCATS that services kids 3 to 6, which is specific, which is really helpful because we've needed that. And then they also have programming that goes all the way up to high school. They also provide therapy for families. So it's just a variety of supports that they're going to bring. And we believe mental health treatments are so important that our families and our schools should have choices. And And so Samaritan is one of those choices, and they'll be working with 15 of our buildings.
I have a question real quick. Do you know if they're, with the other services that you're talking about with them, is Second Step and ESPER program a part of those services? Because I know Adam has kind of cut a lot of their money over there.
Right.
And they've had to lay off a lot of people. Do you know if those two programs might be included?
We definitely talked about the ESPERT program, and I'll have to follow up with Shelley Dinsmore and her team to see if that was built into the contract.
Yeah, let me know about that, and if you need my help with any of that, please let me know.
Will do. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One more. You said this was one of the services. Can you just recap for our audience at home the other services that we're utilizing in
Yes.
addition to this, or
Yeah.
the choices that we are giving
Okay,
families
so,
now?
so the choices that Dayton Public has now is we have Children's Medical Center, a partner, a really strong partner coming back, where they have student resiliency coordinators that support families and more like a initial, you need social skills and things like that. We also have therapists, mental health therapists for children that need more intensive support that Children's Medical is providing. We have up to 15 student resiliency coordinators. That is so important. And we have 7 therapists, but they're servicing 2 buildings each, so about 14 buildings are getting that support. We also have a program called Cartwheel, and one thing we've noticed since COVID is some of our kids do better with online, virtual supports, and if a child is on home instruction for a medical issue or some type of severe case where they're doing the home instruction, they can still get therapy support, and I've seen that work with students. We have another online therapy program called Charlie Health, and they don't charge the district anything at all. If a child, they go through the family's insurance, and if the child doesn't have insurance, they give them scholarships. So they're very intense on supporting families and children. So all of our principals have their chart of the services and the different types of services provided, and so our families have choices.
How do our families, like, if they are in need of these services, is it something that someone in the school has to recommend them for? Do they ask someone to find out, like, what would a family do if this is their first time hearing about it, but they believe that their child needs to be able to take part of this?
They can contact the school principal immediately. They can contact the counselors, the school principal, and the principal can set them up and help them. And even we have students that come and ask for it. And then, of course, the staff member would contact the family and get everything set up. And the nice thing is all of our services provide both services to the child and the family.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, one more. I don't know if this is for you, Ms. Minor, or for Dr. Lawrence. Where, with the number you said with the student resiliency coordinators, what was that number last year?
Last year, we had one at every building.
And now we have them where?
We have them at 15 buildings.
Okay.
But where we may not have the resiliency coordinator, we have the other options. So no building has nothing.
Okay, then how was the selection made to figure out which building would keep the resiliency coordinator?
We looked at the data, which buildings use them the most, and then we partnered with Children's on, the feedback. There were surveys from principals, as well as looking at how many buildings, really used them to the max, and others where it wasn't used as often.
Okay, I appreciate it. The next one is Dr. Lawrence. It was a follow-up on something I brought up before. My concern is then, even though these were people that were just through us, the language that went out to them was that they had been in contact with the Board of Education, which to my knowledge, no one had spoken to me, or I hadn't seen anybody on the board say that there was. And so it created a very negative look on us. as they were basically told that their positions were ending and they had a few weeks to find another position or their employment would be terminated. And it's one of those pieces as we talk about culture and building that, making sure that our names aren't misrepresented in these kind of pieces, because we have people calling the board saying that we were terminating them and that now they're in this lurch. So that was for you, Dr. Lawrence, and seeing how do we keep those things from happening in those situations and not having people misrepresent and say they're speaking to the board when they are not.
I don't know that we can control misrepresentation. I spoke explicitly to I think their CFO before this happened, and Lisa, Ms. Minor and I had several meetings with them prior to coming to these conclusions about how we were going to utilize the services. But I do think that, to your point, there does warrant a follow-up to say that, hey, here's where we landed, and if there was any miscommunication, let's work through how and why it happened.
Any other questions?
Can I ask, what was the reason to take it out of all buildings and just do the 15?
We were looking, first of all, we wanted to expand and use other services in the district to provide choices for diversity. And we also were looking at the budget situation and knowing that the COVID ESSER dollars would be gone. We had to significantly scale back, but we also wanted to make sure we didn't remove services. So we ended up helping the budgetary issue, but expanding the services because of the different pricing from the different organizations that we were able to bring.
Okay, so the resiliency coordinators really came out of the ESSER funds.
Correct.
Okay, but when I look at ESSER funds, I see that there's still 1.8 million that's unencumbered. So I'm just curious of why the short span of reducing it this year instead of looking at a slower rollout to cut back for next year.
This treasurer can follow up on my next statement. All the ESSER funds are encumbered, and there is no more ESSER money. Would you, and Treasurer Abra, I'll let you follow up.
Everything is encumbered.
So
the
is that
one
on the,
you see unencumbered is for our payroll.
so the 1.8 that's unencumbered on the ESSER's report is for payroll later?
Yeah, it's payroll.
But the resiliency coordinators, that's considered payroll as well, right?
That was a consulting contract.
But it,
Those were children from Children's Hospital. No.
so maybe my Dayton public school education is not working for me. I'm just trying to understand. Okay, I will digress on that one. Okay, thank you, Ms.
You're
White.
welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Lastly, YMCA daycare.
Gotcha.
Any questions?
Just to follow up from last week on what the cost would be to our families. Was that information ascertained?
We did not send you the scale, but we will.
Say that one more time, I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did not send you the scale, but we will.
Can I also have that scale brought to our next meeting so people can hear that here as well?
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker,
Abstain.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 abstain.
All right, Dr. Goodwin, that encompass the list?
Yep.
All right. Any other recommendations, Dr. Lawrence?
President Smith, that concludes my recommendations.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Appreciate your work. Madam Treasurer, your recommendations, please.
Okay. Since they go together, can we approve them A to C?
So moved.
It's been moved in second to approve A through C. Any questions? May we have a vote?
Well,
President Smith?
Dr. Walker, Mr. Walker, did you want to have your question before the vote?
yeah, I'm just curious on the update to the budget regarding the coordinator roles for safety and security.
Did you want to ask that after the vote?
Yeah, that's why I was like, I just.
All right, so this vote is to combine A through C. Then
Yeah.
we'll give you first for your question. So can I have a vote, please?
President Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Dr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Reina?
Yes.
Okay, 7
Right.
yeses.
Now,
So, yeah,
I'll entertain a motion to approve A through C.
that's what I'll move.
All right.
That's what we just
Moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Been moved in second.
What are we doing?
What?
She just did that.
That was to combine.
No. That's what you said on mine. I was
To combine them, same way you have to vote to combine them.
That's why I was asking, like, what we doing? That's all I want to know. I thought that we
Voting
already
on to
voted.
approve A through C now. So, do we have a second? Walker, motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lacy seconded. Now, any questions on the motion?
Two
to
questions.
accept A through C?
Two questions from me. First, regarding update to the budget to reflect the board's vote for the coordinator roles for safety and security. And the second question to that would be a follow-up for HR on when those roles are posted. The first question is for the treasurer.
They are in the budget.
So this budget is updated to reflect those 3 additional roles.
They're already in the original budget, I believe is what you mean. Is that correct?
No,
No,
they
they were-
weren't in the original budget.
Yeah, they weren't in the original budget. So I'm like, is this new temporary appropriations by fund, is that updated to reflect?
Yes.
Okay, so that is updated. My second question would be, I submitted an email request last week because of some physicals and things like that are taking place in safety and security, and I was curious on, are those being paid out of the safety and security fund? Or what is those items being paid out of, which fund?
I have a question. Ahmed, were they included those coordinators? I thought they were. Huh? They are not? Okay. Okay. They were not, they are not included in this budget.
Okay, so how are those paid for?
When,
You gotta come
Yeah.
to the mic, man. People
No,
can't hear
no,
you.
we're,
yeah,
so it was a 2-part question, the coordinator's question. The coordinator question was, has Chief Wright's budget been updated to reflect the money for those positions?
Right now, no.
Right now, no.
No, this amendment does not include that.
Okay,
because that one, it's not approved yet, the positions.
we approved them already. This is our
When
third
did
time
we
requesting for the
approve?
budget to be updated to reflect
Did
the
we
board's
approve?
approval when we did the organizational chart.
We didn't
Oh,
approve.
on the org
We did the
chart.
org chart
See,
approval, we didn't
when I
put
do
them
the
on.
budget, I don't use the org chart. I use the approval of the budget, the approval of the FTEs.
So when the board put it on the record to authorize those roles, the budget was never reflected to update the FTEs?
That was, the budget was approved before, so org chart was approved afterwards. So I think when we do the permanent budget, we
In
can include
October,
it at
yeah.
that time.
But this is the third time that this temporary appropriations have come up for a revision. So why haven't those roles been added to that revision?
This one is only for.
Because it is not approved yet.
So
We
you guys,
approved
you
it.
guys need us to
That's
do,
the organizational chart.
No, we approved the roles.
what they need from us, though, is similar to when we brought the IT positions in. It needs to be, a recommendation needs to be put on the agenda to approve the salaries that go with it, as well as the benefits. Because then after that point, am I correct on that? Is that what you guys are
Yes.
saying our disconnect is?
Yeah, and I think,
Yes.
it would be, we're waiting on the salary schedule, so once the salary schedule is approved, it's easier to budget how much we're budgeting for those positions once they're finalized.
It was a 7-0 vote to finalize them already.
I think that was the organizational chart.
Yeah, not
It
to-
hasn't been brought.
So can you guys, so is this, who would this recommendation, so to Mr. Walker's point, we requested the coordinators on the org chart. Is this through you, Dr. Lawrence, for us to get the recommendation, or is this?
We don't even need that. All we need is the approval of the budget, what you just said earlier. Once you say, hey, here's the budget line, here are the resources, assets, benefits, we'll post. Go ahead, Dr. Davis.
So are we deviating from what we've done in the past when we've created new positions, where you guys put it on here to create the position? Is that-
I can only say that, for me, the IT positions, when you all put those on, you put them on with a salary.
Yeah, with the salary, with
Yeah,
that,
and
yeah.
so we didn't do that with that. And to Amit's point, we've talked about this in the Treasury HR meeting, that once the salary schedule, in addition, so once we do that, we can assign the salary schedule to the positions and we'll post them right away.
But
Dr. Davis?
What happens for those to get posted? We need a personnel requisition, and so I've been in communication with Dr. Jones and Chief Wright. They need to submit a personnel requisition that goes to Mr. McCon. He allocates the budget, makes sure that it's approved for that. We get the multiple signatures that's needed, and then the position is posted. I have not seen that personnel requisition, so that's where we are with that.
Well,
And then
they-
that gets the
they-
approval process from the treasurer, and then.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they submitted or not, but even if they haven't, there was, again, the treasurer wasn't here and we didn't have the funds and the
Right.
board hadn't assigned us that number. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious on why does the board need to assign a number if the coordinator position already exists with the salary on the current salary schedule?
The salary schedule hasn't approved yet.
Correct, but we're still onboarding staff in roles with the salary schedule being frozen. So I'm curious
I
as
see what
to,
you're saying. Why didn't we put them on at the old salary schedule?
Right.
Wait on the new salary schedule, then if we hired them, then bump them up then.
exactly,
I
that's
got
what
it.
we did with
Okay.
everybody else.
I wouldn't say bump them, I would say
Yeah.
do similar to the
Well, yeah,
IT
yeah.
individuals, where we kept them since it was a new role.
Right, and you have to still, with the IT, we still created the position. And same as with the,
Salary schedule.
even with the athletic, it was to create, so there's pieces in there I think can get cleared up on how we do that, but I think there's a good lesson in understanding that a vote on the board doesn't immediately make things go, there's still work that has to be done. But there needs to be that communication with what the board votes, then what are the steps followed to ensure that everything that the board voted on then takes place, because it was still the will of the board.
And that was done, Chief Wright, what, 2 months ago? Is that when we voted on that?
So with that, if we can just, someone can send out an update on what all needs to be done, then how's that moving? And I think we can move forward with that. Any other questions?
Yes, my next one was on the physical and drug screens and safety and security. What fund are those paid out of?
I'll have to check and get back with you.
Okay.
Because it could be HR budgets or it could be safety and security, but I'll
Yeah.
get back with you.
I submitted a request last week with the treasurer on it.
Which one was it?
I didn't
just-
see that.
I
request,
didn't
but-
see that.
Okay.
I'll get back with you on
Yeah.
that.
Well, Ahmed, if you could get back with Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, you got any other questions?
Yes. The next question was regarding the principal fund. Again, at the board request, board motion, have those funds been allocated to the principal funds? Have they been notified of what that dollar amount is?
Not yet. When the board passed the resolution, they said October count, so we're waiting for October.
When did we put October in the motion?
Someone added October count.
That's the final count of student enrollment.
Final
Yes.
count.
So we're waiting for the October, so we have the count, so we can allocate it based on October count.
Okay.
We can use last year's October if you.
And then the chiefs, we're gonna go use that October count and go to a quarterly meeting with Treasury to explain that, hey, you have this money, and here's how, here's some ways that you can spend it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Next recommendation?
My next recommendation is the monthly financial for July, as it was reviewed last Wednesday by the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Mr. Lacy, how we looking?
We're looking fine. You can look at them if you want.
I know.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So on the percentage side, is that including the incumbents? That's what's spent already? So to give like OEC central office, 84% has already been spent. So is that including the incumbents that's already
Yeah,
there?
it includes incumbents.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One down here.
Dr. Goodwin?
Hold on. Need a siren. I hate for it to be drowned out by the background noise. On page 12, that's the page I'm looking on, and I asked Dr. Lawrence this question, but I need to follow up on it because we did this. And I'm looking at fund, the drug-free, that Title IV fund. In May 2023, because I heard you guys talk about the uniforms, in May 2023, we had this board had a recommendation for band uniforms, which we did not approve because the band directors told us that they didn't have input. Since I wondered, again, how that money that we didn't approve there got reallocated and spent somewhere else. But I now know that we are in the beginning of our budget cycle, and I kind of want to know what the funds here, what we're looking for that, and if there's an opportunity to buy our students' uniforms that should have came back up to us again, but it didn't come back to us because of our I'm gonna assume it's the transition and just a lot was happening. But to hear that they are essentially begging other organizations for uniforms when we have funds somewhere, because I mean, the ROTC kids don't pay for uniforms. The athletic kids don't pay for their uniforms. They may pay for warm-ups and all these other things, but it just seems like it is something that if you're a part of this program, the bare minimum is to have a instrument and a uniform provided for you. So I'm just trying to figure out what that fund itself, since that was what was recommended to this board last time, how was this fund being used or projected for the remainder of this school year? And if we can pivot to meet that need of what we need.
I think there were two things. One, I think the board, how do I want to say this? They wanted to see different uniforms. That was one. And the other one was, they wanted them in uniforms. So yes, we can pivot. Yes, we can get uniforms. Yes, I saw the email exchange with LaShawn about carryover and how much carryover we had, 15% versus 9. So we, Associate Superintendent Minor, her team, will take a look at that, and then we'll move forward with band uniforms.
Thank you. And for me on the board at that time, the hesitation or the rejection was that the band and the teachers stated they did not have input on it. Mm-hmm. So had they said that they liked those uniforms, I would have voted for it. But the three that we had at the time stated that they weren't even involved in the conversation. So please involve them in the conversation, which I'm sure you guys have already done more, but just to reiterate that, please make them a part of it in that way.
I might add that board member Sampson didn't like him.
He did not like him. He
I might add that board member Sampson did not like him.
I didn't like him either.
And he leaned back in his chair a little bit. He did not like the uniform.
I didn't like him either.
And they zipped up from the back, which was.
So I was transitioning. I came when I ended all that.
I did see Mr. Walker around that same time, and he was
I
in
didn't like
favor
him.
of them.
I was never in favor of those 1963 uniforms.
He was not. He was in the audience with his eyebrows.
You tried to get him over at Central State.
I almost said something.
It's like, that's the new.
Hey.
He was ready.
See,
What?
Any other questions?
yes.
Mr. Walker?
Okay, so on the special programs, I see Stivers adjunct staff. Is this including the rest of the other buildings adjunct staff as well?
No, that number is dedicated solely to Stivers, and it has been for at least 10 years or more. When I was the chief of schools in the early 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, that line was there. I don't remember the number, but it's always been there and been assigned to Stivers. And I think the next question that I would imagine is coming is, what about the other schools, and what about adjuncts? And Associate Superintendent Minor is shaking her head. She is working with Liz Whips. Liz Whips is actually, believe it or not, very excited about this idea around adjuncts at other schools and about expanding services. She does not want to see just this concentration at Stivers. But I think it's important to note that although that line is there, they still have the Seedling Foundation, and that's a complex organization there that, again, they have history in terms of how they're doing things, and we're going to try to expand this to other schools as best we can.
Thank you. And then just for clarity, the Positive School Climate Fund is field trips. Is that what that's for?
Not just field trips. I would say anything that not just the principal, the building leadership team and their MTSS teams and the teams that manage student behavior and as it relates to building culture, they use that money for all different types of things.
Thank you. And then along the same item of special programs, I see the in-school suspension para piece. What is the actual benefit of, like, does in-school suspension work nowadays? How does that, is it more of a drop a kid off type thing, a daycare thing? What?
I'm glad you asked that question. We're going to be doing an exhaustive study on that this year. There have already been principals, high school principals, who have pushed back on the idea of ISS and said, hey, I'd rather have a counselor instead in terms of another ISS individual. So we are, as relates to building supports, that's at the top of our list in terms of things we're assessing and analyzing.
Perfect. Appreciate it. And okay, last thing for me. I'll save that one for offline.
All right, any other questions?
Quick question. We have in-school suspension in schools right now?
Yeah.
Which schools?
We have it at Stivers.
That's one.
I got a Meadowdale.
That's two.
I think it's at elementary.
We had it at Ruskin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I
So
said,
how many schools don't have it is more my question then.
Well, I don't know the exact answer to that. I'll get you a list of the ones that, the secondary schools that don't have it. That's really where the major focus is.
Oh, I'm interested in all of them because he just said Ruskin has it now. Is Ruskin?
Ruskin had it when.
They had it.
He said had. He said had.
Had it. Okay, so if you could just answer
But
if
yes,
elementary has it
K-12,
or not.
we
Yeah.
got you.
And then also who's facilitating, like what position is facilitating those roles? I'm interested in as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for me, it's, with the para, how beneficial is ISS?
All of these roles are a function of the talent, skill, dedication, or commitment of the person that's in the role. And so what we're trying to really study this year, Boardman Walker, is not so much the person, but that the structure itself, and how does it integrate into the day-to-day activities at school? And if we increase other spaces around relationships between teachers and kids, if we increase the level of rigor, if we increase the extended learning by having field trips, if we increase the culture in buildings, do we need it? Those are really the conversations we're having.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, middle school, I was in ISS with Miss Joanne Richardson that's still here. But it was a teacher and a para that was in that room. And I'm just curious of, again, the instruction that a student is getting by being in this classroom, and then the oversight component of it as well. So just more information on that later would be greatly appreciated.
No problem.
And Mr. President, I know we're off on a tangent, I mean, I think they're going to get more. They're going to get more done than if they're sent home.
I agree.
And I talked to a student today that was that got, and I don't know all the facts. I talked to a student that said that they got 3 days suspension out of school because they found a cell phone on him. Now, and I don't know all the. I mean, I'm sure he didn't give me all the facts. But if it was just for cell phone, he's going to go home and he's just going to be scrolling on that cell phone for 7 hours a day. And he's going to get nice and used to having a cell phone with him at all times. And then he's coming back to school. And what's he going to do? He's going to try to have his cell phone again, I think. Yeah. Whereas if there was in-school suspension, or if they just took away the phone and tried to, the lesson is you need to learn how to be functional without a phone. But that's all.
Not to belabor that point, but I do think just as we've started off this school year, the whole phone piece, Dr. Lawrence, if you could kind of prepare what has been going on in the buildings, what have been the processes, procedures, how have they been working. I will say for some buildings, it has become, it's been a long line. And I think, I know we're working these things out, but I would not want to miss out on pointing that out, that in some of these buildings, it's holding up some things. And so how are we looking at that? Then how are we dealing with the discipline and what are those things looking at? So if we can get something up in some time, I appreciate it. Any other questions on the motion?
Can I just echo the thoughts you just said on the cell phones? It was in my notes. But there are some buildings that it's taking 45 minutes to an hour to get them back or get them in. And I know our first version, we did what we could the first version, but we definitely need a better solution because our kids should not be missing instructional time because our process isn't down yet. And that's some of our larger schools. Like some of our schools are just rocking because they've been doing it already. Some are out here in the weeds, and they struggling, and I don't want us to lose that battle. So if you guys can really put those thinking caps on and get your best and brightest together to figure out how to improve the process at some of our schools, and I'm gonna say Belmont to be one, to help that one out, because they're larger, and Stivers too. But yeah, anything you guys can do to help improve that process quickly, that would be great.
Associate Superintendent Minor and I hosted a call on Friday, the second day of school, made some of the same observations that you all made. We made changes over the weekend at Stivers, went much smoother, sent out a memo of communication to parents. Mr. Simmons and Ms. Goins are on the ground and gave recommendations that we're following through opponents for that end-of-day process, which is a difficult one. In addition to that, safety and security has been involved in putting their heads in this. Belmont, we still have not got our heads wrapped around that yet. It's day 4 or 4, but we're going to. But we immediately responded to those cell phone issues, and we'll continue to do so.
I'm gonna say shout out to Dunbar and Thurgood because they over there killing it.
All right, any other questions before we get too far away from our monthly financials?
You opened the door.
Actually, I did not.
I went
made it wider.
I went off of the budget items that I seen. That's where my questions came from.
Oh, I do have one. On the when Mr. Walker was asking on or stated that the paraprofessionals, those individuals would be some of the ones that are in may or may not be in the class that Dr. Davis spoke of with the license, correct? Since they're in the classroom, or are they different?
No, I thought that they was all the same.
They're all the same except for transportation. The only difference
Okay,
is
so
transportation.
I just want to make sure that the ones who hold those positions, again, that we are making sure that if they don't have the credential, that the license piece that we need, that we are communicating timely, because to lose that piece would be a gap in the schools process as well, and I just don't want us to bump up to that date, and just making sure that they are also aware, and we're taking care of that with the foresight of what, because we don't want to lose people in positions.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Walker? You good?
I am good.
Maybe we have a vote. Go.
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, next.
No, they're supposed to be over here, but I ain't been able to see them.
I recommend the approval of the minutes for July.
Uh,
They're not on it.
can we take?
So, before someone puts a motion, I just have a question. If anybody, I don't see them on board doc, and I want to make sure that I looked in the right place before we vote on it. I see up to June. I know it's July we're voting on, but under board meeting minutes, it's only up to June 29th.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so we can move those ones, because I don't know about you guys, I haven't read them, so, but they're not there too.
Also move
Are you okay with that, Madam Treasurer?
Yeah,
move
Okay,
these to the next meeting.
yeah, I'm okay.
okay, can you take back your recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to say it though, but then, because then we don't have anything to vote on if you don't.
Okay, I will take back my recommendation for the approval of minutes.
All right, next recommendation.
Okay. I recommend the approval of then and now as they were reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Do you have any questions?
Yes, just to follow up on the restorative justice arts one. I know that this is something that occurs every year, and I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, what actually does it do for the MOC, FOC staff?
At our last academic, actually not our academic meeting, our weekly meeting that Associate Superintendent Minor and I have, you and Mr. Bailey will be receiving invitations to the training and some of the bi-weekly meetings that they have.
I mean, I don't want to do that. I just wanted to know what.
Yeah.
We're
We're gonna let you see it.
How about this? If he could just let us know at our committee meeting, since we're on that committee.
Got you. If it's working.
Yes.
So that's a legitimate question.
All right.
All right.
And another one for me is the one right below that looks like it's the same information in the description.
So if someone could do Silco Fire and Security, that'd be you, Dr. Jones? The fire protection one? That's what I was about to say. Somebody put that there instead of putting what should be there.
What is it?
All right. Saying the same thing as the restorative justice.
Trying to pull that to after exec.
Sounds cool.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll get right back to it. Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay. Next recommendation.
Thank you.
All right. Would you like to vote a motion on that now, or would you still want to wait?
I mean, I'm good. I just wanted to make sure the amount was correct on there as well. And I'm good.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Any questions? This motion is to vote individually on the Silco Fire and Security. All right, any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, next recommendation.
I recommend the approval of purchase requisition as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
This has been moved and second. Any questions?
Second.
Mr. Walker.
I need to vote separately on Clark Schaefer Hackett.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. We talked about this last week with River's Edge and their duct work. What's the follow-up on kind of what our process is of making sure our other schools have clean ducts and airway and good air quality?
So to date, we have not cleaned the ductwork in any of our buildings. And so we will put together a plan, present that plan to the board. That plan will, come with a cost. We'll have to get some estimates. It'll be something that we may have to get a request for proposal for, but I can present that information to you. If you see at one school, we're talking about $30,000 plus. And so to service all of our buildings, we don't have the capacity from a manpower standpoint to clean the ductwork in our schools. We change filters, so we would have to go with the third party.
So since they've been open, they've never been cleaned? That's wild.
Correct.
Okay. How do we know what the air quality is in our schools? I mean, we went through a whole pandemic since they've been open. So.
The devices that Chief Wright secured that is able to detect, smoke and other pollutants in the air, they do have the capability of identifying carbon monoxide and other harmful chemicals that could harm children and adults in our buildings. So I believe it's just a matter of setting the parameters on that device.
That's cool. Can you find out what type of device would actually measure air quality specific? And I mean, whatever that is, I am interested just to know what that is, what maybe some other places are doing to ensure that the air quality is good.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Maybe I missed this. Our insurance went up $155,000.
Yes.
I wasn't there for that.
One of the reasons why we're looking into moving staff into Hyde. That will give us a savings if we occupy that building.
Appreciate it.
Where are we at in that process?
We are currently in the process of, items that need to be shredded have been identified. We just need to bring a company out to get those things shredded. James has done the work of finding out what types of devices we need in-house to where we can scan all of those documents and store them in the cloud, as opposed to actually having a physical document and all of these cabinets and shelving everywhere.
Does that meet the state requirement of retention?
In some ways, yes. There are other files that we will have to manually maintain, and we actually have I can't remember the name of them, but they're these machines that you can put the files in, and they like retrievers. Yes, thank you. And they rotate up and down, and we have more than enough of those devices to store those materials.
When you said the company that we're waiting on, are we looking for a shredding company, or are we looking for something similar that we had in the past that I believe Ms. Stokes spoke to us about their effectiveness?
I would not want to go with the one that Ms. Stokes spoke about.
Right, she did state that they were
we just
not
need to go
effective.
with a shredding company.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious of how River's Edge is the first school to get ductwork.
Because
I'm just curious, did
Go right
the
ahead.
principal complain and they got moved to the top of the list? Like, how did?
a complaint did come to fruition, but it's because there was actual debris that was noticed on desks, furniture in the classrooms.
And
Was it that one? No.
But the check has not been done by the operations team in all of the other buildings until this complaint was.
We did from.
Levied, correct.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
Can you give us 1 second? 1 second. I think it was that one. Yeah, go ahead. What is it?
Yeah, I think last week I asked about the, what is it called? Hisonic Partners Healthy Meal Software. I think we asked about that last week, and I can't remember exactly what my question was. I think Dr. Lawrence had started telling us what it was, but there was a question.
Oh, so you asked who would be utilizing the software system?
Oh, yeah, that's
that would,
right.
yes, sir. That would be Amber Whitmire, our Associate Director of Food Services.
And how does that help us to purchase this software?
Okay, let me.
As opposed to someone just coming up with meal plans and whatever the standard is.
I will say, last week we did say if they have something on here to vote on, that they should be at the meeting.
Did ask for
Yes,
that.
this individual was not able to make it. She had prior commitments,
Yeah, that's
family commitments.
That's 1 out of 17 who has stuff on this agenda.
Yeah,
not just from your area.
Got you. So if I can just kind of share this with you about the nutrition piece. So the benefits of working with Healthy Pro. Healthy Pro is USDA approved. It's a nutritional analysis software that ensures menu compliance. Analyzed menus ensure planned items are purchased through an automatically generated shopping list for staff purchasing with corresponding Gordon Food Service codes. Production records are automatically generated from the analyzed menus to ensure compliance with production record documentation. Easy AR report provides all necessary documentation required during an administrative review. The school does not have to collect production records, standardized recipes and product formulation statements, and CN labels. Menus and recipes are reviewed by a team of registered and licensed dietitians. My School Menus provides menu transparency for parents and guardians and students with allergies. The virtual menus also provide attributes, contains pork, vegetarian, etc., along with a build-a-meal feature for carbohydrate counting for students with diabetes. This assists the school nurses with ensuring proper insulin dosage based on the meal chosen by the student. Menu updates are displayed automatically to the staff and students. My School Menus is translatable into any Google translatable language to help ESL students. My School Menus is available on the web, and I'll share that with you via email, but it's myschoolmenus.com or via a phone app on iPhone or Android. And essentially this will replace older back-of-the-house software that is becoming extremely outdated.
So this is going to be our first year using this, I take it.
Yes, sir.
And how does this correlate, like last year when food services started to kind of think about changing what they were serving in the schools? How is this, does this help?
It
with
does.
that, or
based on where we purchase it from, it will inform us as to what we can purchase and what we can't purchase. Once we get the food together, we can be creative in terms of what we serve, but the actual purchasing of the food is like critically important. We have to abide by USDA guidelines.
I know that was one of the big things when I was running for school board that the students talked about was
food,
the choices in the food and the food that was being served. Do you think this is going to help us to have better food?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say, my nephew said that the food got better, but it's only been 4 days of school. So I don't know if we started off with it, but I was like, go for it, that's great.
I did hear the same thing.
I heard the same thing, like they got the food got better this year. Question for Dr. Lawrence on the Revival Center Ministry, is this our final year? Or are there more than 5 years of a program?
Yes, that's the final year. It's a 5-year grant.
Are we gonna apply, is the grant cycle, is it opening again, or are we just done with it?
Well, it's 21st century, so you can always reapply every year, you know, when the 5-year cycle goes. But one of the things that they encourage us to do from the federal grant perspective is build a sustainability plan and
Okay.
how you can continue the services even beyond the 5 years. So the goal is to develop systems of support so it continues. So that's something that we'll discuss with our state and federal grants. What's the plan?
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up to
Yes,
that?
sir.
Is it the district that builds the sustainability plan, or is it revival centers that are, not even revival centers, but any community partner that has this program?
With our 21st century programs, because we're the owner
Physical
of the
sponsors?
it's a team effort. It's
Okay.
a collaborative effort that you work with the nonprofit partner
Okay.
and develop that.
And then my next question, since I have you up here, can you just give an overview over the Nucleus Robotics? Is that how you say it?
Nucleus Robotics, which purchase
It's
is
like the
that?
Curriculum Online Business Program for the 2 high schools that have business programs and 3 middle schools for their business introductions.
Yes, so we are expanding our robotics program, and it also provides support to our middle schools, so it goes on up to the high school. The Meadowdale program is doing extremely well, and they travel to the state and everything. And we've got a new teacher at Ponit, so we're excited about it. And so we want to make sure we provide the supports, and that helps to provide the supports.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Maybe we have a vote.
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.
And that concludes your recommendations?
No,
Yes.
there's,
Oh, no, Mr. Lacy wanted to pull one separate to vote on.
Oh, yeah, Clark Shepherd.
Yep, so, any questions?
it's my brother's firm. That's why I'm going to vote separately.
I didn't even know you had a brother.
We've been in the news lately, we've been in the news.
We've been in the news.
Another time now. Seeing no questions, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Abstain.
You said it so clear, I love it.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
and Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 abstain.
I appreciate you for flagging that one, Mr. Lacy. That concludes your recommendations, Madam Treasurer?
Yes,
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I appreciate the work you do for our district.
thank you.
Moving on. Dr. Jones.
I recommend ratification of Section 7A, Transportation Bus Stop Schedule.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any questions for Mr. Jones?
Can you just explain this for us, please?
So the Ohio Administrative Code, Section 330183-13, requires school districts across the state of Ohio to ratify bus stops and drop-offs. And I believe it's a measure that the state took to ensure that school districts have safety as at their core when deciding where to drop students off and where to pick them up.
Okay, and if any of these are found to be unsafe, like let's say they have a child crossing over the street when there's a safer route, how would parents notify the school of that?
Said how
Like,
would
let's
parents-
say I have to cross the street to get off, but there's a safer route, and the parent, like, you can see that, and they wanted to come to the district to go, can you please reconsider this route? How would they
certainly.
do that?
They'll call our call center.
What's that number?
The number. Okay.
542-42.
You supposed to be ready to go with that, like.
Good evening, good evening. You're asking about crossing the students?
If a route that's on here, even though we said it's safe already, but the parent goes, they want a reconsideration for something safer, how would they reach out to you all to share that information and request that consideration?
I believe so. I can update you, but just in general, what we try to do is maximize right-hand stops. So we try to mitigate crossing in front of the bus, so is that what you
Sure.
mean?
No, I'm saying, like, let's say I have a stop, right? And it wasn't a right-hand stop, and my child had to cross the street, and I wanted to ask you guys to look at this again to see if there was a safer route. How could they reach out to you all for that consideration? Can they even reach out to y'all? Can they call somebody? Who do they talk to?
I'm sorry?
I said, who would they reach out to if they had questions
our
about this?
transportation, our call center and administrators, I've taken many of those calls to try and review the route and then touch base with our routers.
Okay. What's the number that they will call you on? Is there a main number? Is there a
Oh,
call
it's 40,
center number? What you got?
937-542-4010, 4010.
Is that gonna get them to you?
That number.
No, I want that number. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah, but if our call center can't answer a specific question, then it will go to an administrator or to me. So just for safety, speed, and efficiency, I don't mind taking those calls. And many of them are resolved within minutes. If not, then we follow up with a call to those parents. So, you know, we understand that there's some consternation out there. That's why we don't mind jumping in. I don't, to get an answer to the parents, the guardians. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Appreciate you, sir. Thank you for what you do. Seeing no other questions, may we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick? Yes. Dr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Dr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
And Mr. Walker?
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right. Moving forward, now since we did move some things in the interest of the time and needing to ask some of these things, since we have a few things we need to vote on that we moved off, I will ask, does the board want to go through board member travel, policies, yada, yada, new business, or go to executive session first?
I can go to executive session first.
Okay, anybody else? Any thoughts? All right.
Whatever the majority wants to do is fine now.
Well, pursuant to section 121.22G2 of the Ohio Revised Code, I move that this board go into executive session. This meeting is being held to consider the employment of a public employee, as well as to confer with an attorney involving pending or imminent court action. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any questions?
And he pulled up the form.
Seeing no questions, may we have a vote?
President Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin?
Yes. It's not either.
Dr. Bailey?
Dr. Bailey. you
Oh,
have to
yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right.
There's only two of us on this.
We'll retire up to our executive session.